Hey everybody, it's Alan Morrison here with another episode of the GraphRAG Curator podcast. Thanks for joining today. Recently, I had the chance to record Todd Blaschka, who is an advisor to Graphwise and somebody who has spent over 25 years in and around data management and been in graph technology since 2017. Todd's a very thoughtful and to the point person, and I thought it was really interesting what his perspective is on helping others understand the value of a knowledge graph approach, a graph retrieval augmented generation approach, GraphRAG approach, without getting caught up in the jargon. So he and I had a nice conversation, and you've got his point of view on how companies are adopting this new technology, how to talk about it, how to think about it in terms of the marketplace. So a lot of interesting insights come across just talking to somebody like Todd, who's got this depth of understanding from having been around in so many different kind of database technologies, so many different kinds of data content and knowledge management approaches that he's familiar with. So I hope you enjoy. Todd Blaschka, thanks for joining today.
Very happy to be here.
Can you tell us about yourself and what your role is at Graphwise? What was your interest in getting into this space and doing what you're doing?
I have been a technology executive with various data management companies for going on almost 25 years now. So I have worked with key value, SQL, scale out SQL, and I fell into more of the graph space back in 2017 when I was approached for a senior leadership role and co-founder role with a graph company. And I really didn't understand graph at the time. And I talked to people much smarter than me, including Merv Adrian, who's well known, from Gartner and other places, as well as some CTOs. And they talked about the importance of relationships. And that's really where I got started in the world of graph. And so I served as the chief operating officer at Tiger Graph for 5 years. Driving 100% growth year over year during that period. And then I moved on into an advisory role, working with various companies, not just graph tech companies, but also other AI companies, whether it's AI security, stream processing. But I've always had this passion around graph technology and the power of the context and relationships as a first-class citizen. And I got connected into OntoText, which is one of the two companies as a merger a little over a year ago. And the timing was right to come on to really work with them on helping them improve their go-to-market. And really from a go-to-market meaning, they have been primarily very successful as an inbound company, but how can we grow faster with more of an outbound motion? And then during that period, we also went through the marriage with Semantic Web Company to be able to bring both companies together, which from my experience in the graph space, the easier you can provide multiple technologies under one roof from a customer, the better it is. Because in the graph space, there's so many point solutions, it becomes spaghetti for an end user to try to bring them all together. And so now what I'm really excited about is what Graphwise offers is the capabilities to be able to really make data AI ready, leveraging domain intelligence as well. And that brings with the both companies a much bigger, solution, if you will, than point solutions, which is typically in the graph, the graph space.
Makes a lot of sense. And one of the reasons I'm excited about what's happening lately is that, if you go back to the 2010s, it was really kind of a struggle to talk about these really powerful knowledge graphs and what it takes to build them. But now
Oh, yeah.
Gartner, you mentioned Merv Adrian, Gartner is now talking about knowledge graphs being as essential as the LLMs and complements to the LLMs. And they're just putting it right at the heart of what companies should be doing.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, I remember talking with Rita Solom with Gartner back in 2017 and 2018, and she was very proud to say we've already were looking at this as a critical component. But with AI, I think AI has really created the opportunity to really determine what your knowledge graph strategy is. And if you're not doing it, you're going to miss out on the domain benefits to your AI. And that linchpin in how, whether you see it from a Gartner point of view or other analysts, the real importance of knowledge graphs, knowledge management as critical. The struggle that we have to continue to educate customers on is not all knowledge graph management systems are alike. And you really need to understand and peel back the layers. And that gets kind of techy, but you need to help understand, because some companies say they have a knowledge graph as a provider, but when you look under the hood, it does very limited functionality in that area. And that's just a challenge in this market, because so many companies are just coming in and saying, we provide a knowledge graph or we do knowledge management, but it's like, how do you get to the lever? So it's great to have the attention, but it requires a lot more education at the same time to help a customer navigate all the different pieces out there for data management and content management.
Yeah, it seems like every time you meet somebody that is excited about the potential here, you've got to educate them about a diverse marketplace and where to look for solutions. It's like you've got to have that conversation over and over again. And
It is.
yeah, absolutely. So, one of the things you and I have talked about before is agentic AI and the use of these agents in a different development model that's emerging. And so, you mentioned AI, and I think that the agent side of things really demands a knowledge graph approach even more than what came before in terms of the more passive kinds of AI. You've got action models that are actually enabling agents to do all sorts of new things, but then they have the potential of getting in trouble really quickly, and there's no trusted environment when it comes to agents. So it would seem like the Graphwise approach would be really valuable in that agent development context, which a lot of developers are really excited about.
Oh, absolutely. When you look at it, one of the key benefits is the recursive learning, because data is constantly changing. We always talk about the shape of data. It's always changing. New data is coming in, new documents. How are you able to leverage this and continue to help the agent learn and grow based on what is happening in your organization? And I think that is one of the areas where companies are looking to, is how to make the agents more trustable, knowing that you can also be able to have the evidence of how it got to those results, and be able to manage them. When you look at, I was recently at a Microsoft conference where they're talking about their agent approach, and this is in the context of M365. And one of the speakers, the product leader, talked about, well, their goal is to have all their users replace documents with agents and store all those in SharePoint. So when you look about all these, so agents don't take on the one shape, but how do you manage them? How do you make sure you're serving up the right data to those agents to make the right intelligence decisions, and more importantly, to leverage the domain information, which really can then provide that competitive advantage in the output on these agents. And so there is, with the rise of agents, the importance of the knowledge, the domain knowledge, and having the right data serving up for those agents to do their work is more and more critical.
Yeah. And one of the key advantages of the Graphwise approach is that you've got mature organization. Graphwise and its predecessor companies go back 20 years. So they've been building this stuff for 20 years, and they've been working on the NLP side of things, the statistical machine learning side of things, as well as the knowledge graph side of things, and the symbolic AI. So they're bringing this hybrid AI approach together, and they're one of the few companies that really have nailed this in terms of the whole holistic AI that can be built here.
It's providing a very rich environment, and it's proven technology. And that's one of, as you said, the companies and what they bring together, whether it's from a data management or content management standpoint, they've been doing this for nearly 20 years. So it's now giving this is proven technology, it's proven results. And what we're also seeing is, even with, new techniques such as GraphRAG, which, is, the next, really the forefront of where RAG will be. And we're going to see a lot more RAG move to GraphRAG because of the accuracy, the grounding that can happen. And we're seeing in the results, significant uplift in what customers are already doing with their models today. And that's where that infrastructure really has allowed customers to see that. And then secondly, it allows, where one of the big benefits of AI is to be able to look across multiple data stores. So it's not just doing this on a data store, but companies are storing data across multiple data stores. How can you bring that together and then serve it up? And so it's leveraging the heritage of the knowledge graph construct that they then can feed it into GraphRAG. And then you can also get data prep going through automated tagging and semantic AI. So the time to value is shortening the window because of the maturity of these products.
Yeah, it really makes a lot of sense. And, you've got this potential to just take this interest in retrieval augmented generation, RAG, and do it the right way. Because so much of RAG is vector-only RAG. You're only using a vector database. But with the Graphwise approach, you can do a lot of different things with a lot of different sources. And so you can solve that big fragmentation problem that your clients are always talking about.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things we hear from the customers is, how do they make their data AI ready? And there is your content and there is your data. And since Graphwise can support both in doing the data prep to make it AI ready, that's where then GraphRAG can really shine, because it's part of a whole process. Because it goes back to the old days. We always hear, you need good data to make this work. Well, providing the tooling that can help make the data work for AI then benefits GraphRAG, and then the LLMs and all the work behind the scenes that can then produce answers that customers can trust on, because they're making, big business decisions on the output of what these, of what their AI initiatives are doing. And they want to know that I can trust the data. My users can be more productive, because you don't want someone working off the wrong data, because then that's just a big miss, especially on what kind of application or use you want to do, with AI.
Well, and computing, whether it's, regardless of the kind of computing you were talking about, it's garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't have the right inputs, you're not going to get the right outputs. So it's just very fundamental stuff that's going on. I'm wondering, you've got some, Graphwise has got some really solid clients who've got some stories to tell about how well they're using these products. Does a story come to mind that you could share today?
I mean, one of the ones, that comes to mind is what EY, one of the top consulting firms, are doing. And they are, building a knowledge hub, if you will. And this is for their internal users that can support a variety of use cases, but it's being able to get the data ready so that their hundreds of thousands of users that are using their internal systems can be able to get access to that information. And so as they've built out this architecture, it's allowing them to be able to provide and serve up data from a variety of different data stores to really break down the silos, and then be able to provide a simple chat interface for their different users to be able to go, access what they need, find what they want based on what their roles are. And there is so much, so much tech behind the scenes, but they've made this a usable ease of use from the end user to know that they're getting trust out of it. So when you think about, an example is, how do I find the people that have expertise on this particular automobile supply chain use case? How do I go find the right people? What have we done before? And what was the output? That is where you need a powerful search that knows where that stuff is, what were those outcomes, and how to be able then to bring it all together. And those are the kind of things that you can do by building these kind of systems together. And when you're looking at building your domain knowledge is a critical part of that. Think about a company that size. It's not tens of thousands of documents they need to feed into the system. You're getting into the millions. And to be able to tag, prep, and get all that data in there, and then you continually involve that data, that is a critical part of what they are building, because their whole view is, how do I improve workforce productivity? So I need to make sure the data and the information is available. It can work within the security frameworks so that different users, based on their roles, get access to what they need, and they're getting the right data at the right time.
Yeah. Being a consulting firm veteran myself, I mean, it's a really heavily regulated space. I mean, you've got these audit firms that have all of the audit requirement, all of the different requirements that they have to comply with. So, the fact that you've got all these regulatory requirements means you need a trusted provider that understands how to make this work in a safe way. And so it just makes all the sense in the world. And you just think about all the nature of the fragmentation. We talked about unifying search again, because the more tooling comes into the environment, the more fragmented the search experience becomes. And all of a sudden, you've got to go through six or seven places just to do a proper search.
Oh, absolutely. And think about the process behind the scenes on getting there. It's, because the end result is you want to provide the users a personalized, intelligent, intuitive search. And personalized is one of the key things that is so critical, but so hard to do. And so you look at the steps behind the scenes where you need to have a way to be able to submit information to the system. Then how does it go through a review and optimization process to make sure it's sanitized? What can you do through automation? Where does human, review go in? How do you get these approvals? So it's like, this is the information we want to bring into our knowledge management, or system or knowledge hub. And then there's the storage and distribution that you need to provide to your employees. And then what can they see, what they can find, and how can they download so that it supports their own interests, their own pursuits, if you will. And so there's many steps behind that. And so a lot of that is the back end process that you need to be able to have the right data, to be tagged appropriately, because this is an evolution. It's not something that's going to happen overnight with based on the amount of documents, and documents are always evolving. Content's always changing. So so there needs to be a system and a process that's put in place to be able to go through the preparation to then making it available and then distribute it, and then making that search experience highly personalized. And that's where the opportunity is. And so that's what we're seeing with, we have a notion inside of a Graphwise we call the 5-star journey. And when you're able to get to personalization and have data and content from multiple data storage places all coming together, you're at the 5-star. And that's where EY is really in that kind of level. But a lot of customers, when we talk to them, they're at stage 1 or stage 2. And stage 1 is, we're just starting out as a department. We need to prove something out. And it's a very common way, whether it's a pilot, whether it's one particular storage area, whether it's M365, whether it's a CRM, whatever it may be, but get that proven before you expand out. But it's really setting up making sure you have the right data and content management environments and tooling ready to get to that proper outcome. Because I'm sure in your experience too, Alan, is you've heard of many AI projects failing, and they invest, they go through 2 or 3 iterations, and oftentimes we're finding it's because they don't have the right data or the accurate data that can provide the right outcome.
Yeah. It's so evident, and it's great you're talking about the data maturity curve, and where people should. A lot of people can just get started with their SharePoint, which you and I have talked about before. The complaint being that I can't find what we posted in SharePoint when I need to find it. And how does a Graphwise approach just help you with discoverability in SharePoint, for example?
Oh, yeah. I mean, one of the first things there is to be able to provide semantic AI, which really provides the context to the content that's being stored in SharePoint. And then when we talk about SharePoint, it could also be accessing what's in Teams, what's in Outlook, what's in anything in the M365. So when someone's going through, whether they're trying to access and search through Copilot or directly through, directly search through Teams, it's finding that data. The searchability and findability has been a struggle because there has not been a structure and process to do the tagging of the words, to create a dictionary, synonyms, thesaurus, and be able to provide that search experience. And that is what one of the capabilities that we bring to the table is being able to bring that in. So as data comes in, there could be automated tagging. You're able to look at inferencing. So if a document comes in and it has the term Paris in there, is it Paris Hilton? Is it Paris, Texas? Is it Paris, France? As an example. And with the same semantic AI capabilities, it has the ability to dig through that to get to what the term means in the right context. And then as new documents come in, there's the ability to do the inferencing and saying, well, this document came in and it probably means the same thing. Let's do that. And if you want to point to a human review, that could also be part of the process. So the search experience is much more relevant, and users can get much more benefit rather than saying, I've searched in SharePoint, I can't find what I'm looking for. And I've seen at conferences where we have polled, raise your hand if you have a great search experience with SharePoint. And in this one conference, one person raised their hand, and I had to catch that person and say, why do you have a good search experience? He says, I remember the name of my documents. Nobody else. Most people don't remember all the documents you want to search for. And so it just kind of cracked me up. But this is just a starting point, but it is a very powerful starting point. And it also ties back to the trust experience. How do I find what we need? Otherwise, users are going to go somewhere else to try to get to answers. They don't want to wait. So you need to provide a high quality search experience.
Yeah, and that goes to developer teams need the same thing, and there's all of this stuff that they want to make sure they're not reinventing the wheel, that somebody else hasn't done what they're doing. They want to find something to build on top of. They need to build on top of this foundation that we're talking about. There's so many ways that this platform could benefit developer teams internally.
Oh, 100%. You see that we're seeing more and more use cases where developers just want to be able to grab something and run with it. They want the easy, fast button. And that's really where we focus on, is from the developer productivity, is set up the infrastructure to get the data, do the coding they want to do, and spend the time on their high value tasks and not on these other areas which are not core to their expertise. And I see that more and more with the customers on how do I get better output, and then and they understand more where techniques, such as ontology and taxonomy are critical to feed into their coding that supports AI. But how do you make the data prep where they're not spending 90% of their time trying to do data wrangling? They just know, here's the data I have. I know it's trusted. I can also look back and go where it is, and then I can then be able to do my work better. So we're seeing these workflows improve the productivity of developers because they don't have to spend the time finding this stuff or tagging this stuff.
Yeah, and you all have this partner network that's wonderful too. And so if folks, for example, may not have the expertise to build ontologies, but they definitely need them, you can reach out to a partner who has the expertise in a particular vertical that they need and get them up to speed quickly on what they need to start with. There are ways to crack this nut. In other words, if you're just getting started and just starting to develop in the right way, in a knowledge graph way.
I mean, that's really one of the strengths is with us being around for, the company's being around for nearly 20 years. We have a strong ecosystem of partners, depending on what their needs are, whether it's getting things off the ground with semantics such as ontology or taxonomy, whether there's partners or be able to provide as a service to to customers that are very good at helping a customer scale up their data preparedness when they want to be able to expand from one data store to another and those areas. So there's many different ways through our partner network that we can help customers accelerate their journey and get to value very quickly. One of the things we've introduced in the last quarter to really help customers quickly see value, because everybody's under pressure of show positive results on AI, but you don't want to go through a long pilot, year-long evaluation. And what we've put together are these quick start programs or accelerators where we can work with a customer, in a much smaller, rapid, way to identify what their, segment of what they want to accomplish. And within 3 to 5 days, we could show them specific validated output that then can be showing here's results before and how this could fit broader into a broader system. And so these quick starts, the feedback has been from the customers have been great because they're lower risk. Because with so many AI tools out there, one of the big challenges, how long do you spend with these different tools, bring them together in this? And what we do is this really a joint offering with our product, with some partners on the delivery side, where we can then quickly jump in, show value, and then that helps them build a business case on where does Graphwise help in their AI journey across different components. Here's what the outcome is. And that is really where customers are at this nowadays. They don't have the patience and they don't want to invest a large amount in any technologies until it can get proven out. And so these tools are a direct result of customers saying, help us find ways to validate our use cases even faster. And that's really where a new offering that we're doing in conjunction with our partners.
Yeah, it just seems like the company is so well positioned to help out with all of these challenges. And I think you just named one of the biggest challenges companies have is that we know we want to invest in AI, but we want to do it in the right way. We don't want to burn up this money and show no results for it. So you're demonstrating the ROI with a quick start. And basically you're answering the question, where do we invest our money in AI? Well, you get started this way. So I just think answering these questions up front so people can take advantage and do what they need to do this year and then build on top of that next year.
Yeah, and that's where that's a great way of pointing it when we talk about our 5-star journey. It's start small, and then it starts with a department project. It could be even just a component of SharePoint. It could be under learning management. It could be, start with one thing before you expand it out, because nothing better than showing results and what it can do can expand upon it, whether it's through, SharePoint M365, whether it's focusing more on, using GraphRAG specifically for improving, LLM accuracy in terms of that overall AI pipeline. There's different ways in where you can help a customer really get to some quick results. And we're seeing that with GraphRAG. We've done a similar accelerators where customers have already been experiencing and testing with RAG. And then when you bring in the GraphRAG approach, which provides broader context, better inferencing, and the linking to the grounded data, they're seeing uplifts, 25-30% uplift on accuracy from what they're doing before. And that boosts confidence tremendously, because that, again, how do you provide a good end user experience is with data you can trust. And so we're seeing these outputs quickly through the tooling that we've had and that we've really, really designed to help customers see value quickly through these kind of initiatives.
Yeah, well, it's super to hear all these great things that are going on, and I wish you the best of luck with the rest of 2025 and beyond.
Oh, thank you. Very excited to be here. Appreciate the time, Alan.
Thank you, Todd.